In this video, I'm going to be covering some movement-related bugs/features that I think are important for every mapper to know. This will be mostly aimed towards people making trick jump or timer maps for ET jump or ET run, but some of the topics are also important things to know when making standard objective-based maps for any mod. In the video description there will be a download link for all the test maps included in this video. So the first bug I'm going to be covering is something that most people probably know, but not everyone is aware of why it happens, which is the getting stuck on corners bug, which I guess everyone who has played Bremen has encountered this in some form. This is because most of Bremen is mapped on 45-degree angle. As you can see, the building corners are not along the X or Y axis of the world, and they are mapped in a certain way that makes this bug appear. So the exact conditions for this bug to appear is that you need to have two planes intersecting, and one of the planes has to be off from the world X, Y or Z axis, and there has to be a brush split at the corner. So here you can see I have two brushes that are created along the world X and Y axis, and then I have a wall that is angled at 45 degrees, so this plane isn't along the X or Y axis of the world. And also there are brush splits on all of these corners. So what happens in game is that whenever we approach the corner from the plane that is not along the world axis, you will get stuck on the corner. It doesn't happen if you come from the plane that is along the axis. That will work just fine. So in order to avoid this bug, you always want to avoid doing brush splits on the corners where the planes intersect. Here I have created this exact same structure, but I have made the brushes a bit differently. You can see that the brush that is at 45-degree angle actually expands to go like inside the brushes that are along the world axis, so that it avoids creating a brush split here. These brushes also extend inside this brush that's in the middle. So you can also see that I have just left these surfaces caulked so that they don't create any additional draw surfaces in the game. So the way this works in game is that you will not get stuck on any of the corners. This will work just fine. Obviously, another thing you can do to avoid this bug is to just create a structure like this from one brush, because there won't be any brush seams anywhere, so this bug doesn't happen. Keep in mind that this bug also affects the world Z axis. So here I have created these ceiling structures. This one is a single brush, but this one is split from here. So what happens when I jump against it is that my head gets stuck there and I just drop down, like so. But on this one, it just kind of changes my movement direction a bit. This bug also enables the ability to walk on brush edges, for example on terrains. Here I have this structure that is split into two brushes, like for example terrain planes would be if you create a vertical wall, but this one is just a single brush. So in game I can stand here, which is split on two brushes, but I cannot stand here, which is just a single brush. Next we have a ramp step up bug/feature, if you want to call it that. So here I have four ramps. These two are a single brush, but these ones are split into two brushes and there is a brush seam right at the top of the ramp. In game what happens is with these single brush ramps, I will fly off the top when I reach the peak of the ramp, like so. But the ones that are split into two brushes, I just snap on the top plane. This is very important for people who are making like objective-based maps. If you have slopes that people walk on, you always want to split them like this so that they don't just fly off the top, because that's very annoying in gameplay. This also enables you to step up on the top of the ramp. So this one that is split, you can see that I will step on. If I just reach the top, yeah, there we go. You can step up at the top, but on this one it doesn't happen at all, because step up doesn't happen unless you have a brush seam at the top of the ramp. This is also a very important thing to remember when you're making ramps in your map. This one is a single brush and this one is 2 brushes. Now, in game, the way it works is that the single brush ramp works just fine, but the one that's split into 2 brushes doesn't really ramp you at all. It doesn't always happen to this extreme that it doesn't ramp at all. It might just ramp a bit worse, but this just happens to particularly like not ramp at all. But I think it depends on the angle of the plane that you're trying to ramp. The next bug is mostly a concern when you're making warp jumps. Usually when you create a warp, you create a corner where you get 0 UPS horizontal speed. Now, if you create this corner at a 90-degree angle, this will happen most likely. You get 1 UPS speed at the corner. This doesn't have to be like along the X or Y axis, it can be on any angle really. Like this is a 90-degree angle corner and it still happens here. So the solution to this is to just create a corner that is less than 90 degrees. So this one is slightly less than 90 degrees and it doesn't happen here at all. You can see in Radiant I have like this corner is, if I rotate this 45 degrees, it is exactly 90-degree corner, but this one is not quite 90 degrees. This plane is a bit off from the axis so that it creates a bit less than 90-degree corner. Keep in mind that this behavior changes when you play online, so this might, for example, not work properly online. This might be a bit too like big corner still. So you always want to test this thing in a real online server. You cannot test it by simulating lag with CL_packet delay or SV_packet delay. It has to be a real online server. Next, I want to talk about slope overbounces and how you should take them into account when you're making jumps where you jump on a slope. Normally when you jump on a slope, you gain a bit of extra forward speed or horizontal speed, depending on the angle of the slope. You will usually design your jumps so that it will take advantage of this. So here in this map, I have 2 teleporters that teleport me to the exact same vertical height on top of this slope. This map has overbounces disabled, but I have added overbounce shader below this teleporter so that I can get an overbounce on this area. So in game, this is the one that doesn't have overbounce enabled. If I just teleport here and I hold jump as I fall down, you will see that I gain some forward speed. Now, with the one that has overbounce enabled, I don't get any speed. This is because when you get a slope overbounce, you need to delay your jump a bit in order to take advantage of the overbounce. You can see that I do get actually more speed than I normally would get when I get the slope overbounce. This one only gave me 267 UPS speed, but this one there, 378 UPS. So in general, you always want to have overbounce shaders on top of slopes so that people don't accidentally get overbounces on them, because it's not something you expect. Overbounce detector doesn't show it, and it'll just in general mess up the jump because you are mapping it and not expecting people to overbounce on it. For this next one, I don't really have an example map because this is something that is extremely rare. And while I would know how to map it, I don't really know if I can make it happen. Sometimes when you're wall strafing, you will get stuck on a wall if there is a brush split in the wall. This actually happened to me a couple of days ago when I was playing AG balls. There's this one jump where you wall strafe and there's a brush split, and I just happened to get stuck on it. You might have also seen this on Arctic's second last jump, which starts with a wall strafe and it has a brush split along the wall, and you just sometimes get stuck on it. I will put up a video here to show you exactly how this happens. But to avoid this, just in general, don't create brush splits along the walls that you expect people to wall strafe, or if you absolutely have to, then maybe create the walls as non-solid and just clip it with a single brush so that this doesn't happen. This next bug is something that only happens on online servers. You cannot simulate this offline with CL_packet delay or SV_packet delay. If you have a ramp that is up against a 90-degree corner like this, and you Wallstrafe on it, you will sometimes just get thrown down instantly without ramping the jump. You have probably seen this in that one original jump in Extreme Tricks, where you have to slide along the thin edge of the Oasis wall to get on top of it. This will only happen on exactly 90-degree corners, so in order to avoid this you can create a small clip brush like this along the ramp so that this angle is no longer 90 degrees, and you can see that it doesn't happen here ever. This bug is extremely weird. You need to have a ramp that is not along the world X or Y axis. It doesn't have to be Angleslick. It has to be just steep enough for this bug to happen, which is I don't know how steep, because this is just so absurd. So these ramps, as you can see, these are not Angleslick. But if we look at this very edge here, you can see on my CHS that I have this plane angle set enabled. This is 90 degrees, this is 37.45 degrees. But if I move my crosshair slowly here, you can see there's a slick edge here that is 47.29 degrees, which is enough for it to be an Angleslick. So this very edge of the ramp is actually slick. Now, this also happens on this side, this is the same, but I think it was this one. Yeah, this one only has, this is 36.62, which is not Angleslick, and the very edge here is 40.91 degrees, and then it goes to 90 again. But it happens on this side. Here we have a 55.3 degree angle. This is, I have no idea why this happens, and, I know of one spot where this happens, which is in Oasis, in that one ramp where you go from Old City to the CP, which is in Origami, for example. This one here, this is a 29.69 degree angle, but then there is an Angleslick here that is 51.34 degrees. I have no idea why this happens and what is the exact angle of the brush or the plane for this to happen. Next we have a bug where your head gets stuck on a brush even though you have enough clearance to go below it. This happens in Bremen, for example, near the flag at the windows, or in that one time run in Run Fun where you drop down and you're supposed to get an overbounce and ramp out and stuff like that. So if you have a brush that is sticking out of the wall and the angle that the brushes form is 90 degrees or less, your head will get stuck on the top brush even if there's enough clearance for you to stand below it. So the clearance here is 90 units. The player is 72 units high. But if I go here and I strafe against this wall and try to go below this, my head will get stuck on it. If I turn so slightly that I don't strafe against the wall, I can go below it just fine. If the angle is over 90 degrees, it will just bump me a bit off the wall. This same thing happens with crouch and prone. The exact dimensions for this to happen is, while standing up, you need to have a clearance of 91 units, which is player B-box height, which is 72, plus step-up height, which is 18, plus 1. The minimum clearance for crouch is crouch B-box height, which is 49 units, plus step-up height, which is 18 units. And if you go 1 unit below that, you will get stuck. Here I have 66 units. And the same applies for prone. It has to be prone B-box height 41 plus step-up height 18 units. 1 unit below that and you will get stuck. This happens also on 45-degree angles or any angle. The angles of these planes do not matter, it's the angle between them that matters. So in order to fix it, you either have to just make the clearance higher, or you have to create a clip brush along the wall so that this angle is no longer 90 degrees, but it's more. So here you can see that I have the clip brush on the wall, and if I strafe along this, it'll work just fine. So those were some of the bugs / features I think mappers should be aware of. I hope you learned something from this, and let me know in the comments or Discord if you want to see more mapping related videos. And thank you for watching.